Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about a subscriber question that I saw just the other day. So let's get into it. The question in question was basically if Frederick, how should I brand myself? And that's a very interesting question because I think we need a bit of a backstory on this one actually. This person explained to me that he was working as a full stack developer and basically he has a background in .NET and then he uses Angular and Vue at his place of work. And the way he expressed himself was basically that what I know he said that he's not much into this front end thing. He's not much for design of and this sort of thing. He prefers to, he kind of likes that about his current place of work, where it's okay, the UI should just be good enough, and then all the real stuff is happening on the server, and so forth. And the way that I think about this, because the thing that he had trouble with was basically how to market himself. Should he call himself a full stack developer, an application developer? What should he call himself, right? And it's a very good and kind of interesting question. I'll see if I can answer this because he was a little bit unsure about the different terms and the distinction between them. And I can imagine that there's quite a lot of people who feel a little bit, all right, what is it to be a backend developer, front-end developer, full-stack developer, software developer, mobile? There's so many different terms, right? So I'll see if I can give you the way that I've found the industry to define these things. And let's see where we land up. So first and foremost, I think it's kind of fun that he said that he is a full stack developer, and he's very happy that it's okay that the UI is just good enough, and then all the real stuff is happening on the back end. Now, in my experience, that is not the words of a full stack developer. Those are the words of a backend developer who has taken the time to learn something about front end. It's actually very uncommon, in my world at least, that you find a backend developer who has absolutely no idea how to produce a UI of any sort. But the usual way that they talk is that exact way. If you have a front-end developer, it goes kind of the other way around. Now, let's just talk about these different terms. So front-end developer, in the industry's perspective, a front-end developer is a programmer who has a extra good understanding of CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. And I know that there's plenty of designers out there who will fight me on this, and that is okay. I'm not, don't get angry at me for what the industry has decided this term means, because I didn't come up with this. I just try to label it the way that I know that it's going to be relevant when you go and look for a job. Because if you go into a job interview and call yourself a front-end developer, they will have certain expectations. And even if the semantics of this term is different, nobody cares, guys. No one cares if you are technically correct, if you have a different interpretation of what this means than that of your employer, because the employer doesn't care about semantics. The employer cares about you being able to do the things that they think the thing that they are asking for means. And I'll leave the rest up to you. So for most of the industry, that is what it means. A big emphasis on things such as JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and kind of, all these things that have to do with UI work. Then you have the backend developers, and the backend developers are, as you may suspect, web developers or that sort of thing. They work primarily with server-side systems. They are the ones who produce the actual logic and so forth. And then you have the full-stack developers who have the ability to work on both ends of things. In other words, you have a good grasp of how to produce a working interface and working with React, Angular, Vue, these sorts of things, at least these days. And you can also produce things on the back end. You understand session management, cookies, databases, everything, all of these different things, right? It's a very big topic. So then what is this term that he used, application developer? Well, an application developer, we kind of have to ask the fundamental question, what is an application? Well, technically an application is anything that a user can interact with. So a mobile app is a application. A web page. You can call it web page, website, but there's also a term called web application. So technically that is a web application as well. Is a game, a computer game, an application? Well, yeah, it is a desktop application or a mobile application. It's technically a application. So that term is a little bit loose. It's actually not that common that I hear that term. The most common term I hear is software engineer or software developer. Now, what does that mean? Well, this used to mean a certain thing, and today it is, in my world, at least what I can see, a umbrella term for basically you write software. It's been the exact semantics and meaning of this has been diluted to the point where it just means that you write software. And that's the thing that I've noticed and is probably true for most of the industry. If you are an enterprise developer, in other words, you work with you're basically a web developer, but you are not a web developer who works, let's say, in just PHP at a small scale. You are an enterprise developer. You are the sort of person who can work at really large companies, work with really big systems, and most of them are network-based or like web-based somehow. That's usually how enterprise work. Then most of the time when you say software developer, people are just going to look at your CV, see that, hey, you know, C#, Java, whatever you know, and they're going to just, understand exactly who you are. However, then there's this little branch of people who don't like this because, you know, web development is not the same thing as software development, and we can absolutely have a discussion about that. But that is what the most of the industry looks at, and that's how it's interpreted, how people think about it anyway. And the people who are not in that bucket, in other words, the minorities, which are system developers, games developers, mobile app developers, they usually actually specify this exact thing on their CV instead of just saying software developer. Now, there are many reasons as to why you want to do that, but the primary reason is that if you want relevant work and offers that are relevant to the thing that you are passionate about. So if you are a systems developer and you just put software developer on there, you're going to have to be kind of ready for people just contacting you for everything that, you know, anything basically, because that's you, that as I said, software developer, all it means at this point is that you write code, and you kind of have to read, you know, the person's actual skills and experiences to kind of figure out what type of developer they are. So for this specific person who asks the question, the way that I would label myself, if you have experience where you are able to work both with the UI and the server, I would either state that you're call yourself a full stack developer or a software developer, because you fall into both categories. So as I said, software developer it's very similar. Like these three terms, being a web developer, a software developer, and a full stack developer, like they're so similar that most people don't even bother to make a distinction between them. But that's not true for, say, systems developers. Usually you specify that you are a systems developer because it's highly specialized work in comparison to what the norm is, and the norm is enterprise level development. So what I want you to take away from this is that depending on what type of jobs you are looking for, you may need to label yourself in different manners, especially if you are in these a little bit more niched or minority groups, which is systems development, games development, and mobile development. Then you kind of have to specify in your job title or that sort of thing in order for people to understand that that is the thing that you do primarily. Because, as I said, most of the industry, the vast majority of programmers work with enterprise development, and therefore most people are assuming that you have at least an interest in that sort of work, and if you don't, it's good if you specify it just a little bit more. That's at least how it looks right now. Have a great day.